Hello everybody, Troublemaker here, and I have a great match today. It's a Pact versus Pact on the Uppsala map. And first we have, playing as the Blue Pact, we'll be seeing YOLA, and their opponents playing as the Red Pact are the second place champions of the Go for Wargame. It is BPT. Yeah. And of course, we have playing for YOLA, Ramiro's, T80U, Enotic, and Radis. And playing for BPT, we have Zek, Pierre Shako, Darkmill, and Wolf. And yeah, pretty exciting stuff. Of course, YOLA, YOBA, that's their name. YOBA, of course, has a pretty phenomenal team. Ramiro's, T80U, and Radis are all some of the top players in the game. I don't know about Enotic. Honest to God, we will see what he's about. But of course, BPT did get to the finals. They did put two teams in, so that's one good reason. They were, second place. We'll have to see how they do this week, of course, but that's a pretty solid start for this team. Clan play has definitely seemingly paid off more than almost any other game out there, other than, say, StarCraft 2. When you're looking at games like Company Heroes 2 and Men of War and League of Legends and these types of games, it's not all that clear that being part of a clan really pays out that much, as opposed to being just part of a small, very select team. But in this, having tons of practice partners is definitely paying off. We're about to start. This is, of course, Conquest mode, and looks like BPT's been using what's become pretty well standard play. You have some air superiority players come in just to kind of try and block the Napalm Bomber, and of course they have their own Napalm Bomber. This is a small little switch. Normally you have the Napalm Bomber leading the charge because you want him to actually get his stuff off first, and then you have the air superior players last. But now we're looking at a pretty big change here. And looks like a ridiculous amount of air superior fighters and lots of napalm bombers coming in. Just some minor delays, some practices that these guys are doing. Because everyone now assumes that you were going to do this. Everyone assumes that you were going to go ahead and do these very, very big mass air openers that are just insanely effective on the ground. Now, there might be an over use here by by YOBA, who aren't getting off too many effective napalms here, and are shooting down a lot of helicopters, but are also very heavily invested in air right now. They are able to get down a lot of helicopters, are able to get down some napalms, but of course they are unable to prevent the most important napalm of all. This napalm here, of course, comes from BPT, and even taking some pretty non-standard routes here to avoid any possible fire. They have split up the units, which is really, really good, and actually looks like BPT will in fact be able to be the first to secure the medal. Slow down here from Ramiro is not getting his units up just in time, and the ground forces will in fact secure this town, and it will be an uphill battle. All the while, we do have a command moving at a Golf. We have Golf, Delta, Charlie, and Bravo here for YOBA being taken, and small lead for them. Ever so small. They will be +1 for a little bit until another command can get relegated. And that's a big thing right now. There's a little bit of bleeding, a lot of bleeding actually happening right now. And BPT really has to get some more commands out. They will need another 1, it looks like. They will need to secure this forward base, which of course looks like there's some VDVs being obnoxious here. And this is an obnoxious position. The units will in fact leave this tunnel here, and there's a VDV protecting it. So T80U showing off some skills here is actually possibly going to get this AA, which would also be huge, absolutely huge. And yes, does get it. They should pick off this VDV relatively. Here comes the command right away. And yeah, there's just a lot of VDVs here, and T80U is actually in the woods here. And I don't think Red knows about this. No, they absolutely do not. And that could be problematic for them. The VDVs will try to snipe this command, which would be absolutely huge. And the VDVs up front here will be sniping the units that come out. There's a pretty big deployment here from this one reinforcement point. Of course, this was their only reinforcement point, and here we go. This is the madness, but actually just too many. A BMPT gets lodged out first, able to clean out that infantry. Just wasn't enough units to actually do anything there. Very unfortunate. But here comes the VDV once again coming in for a snipe, and oh my god, it gets it. Huge. Now India's taken. Unfortunately, it looks like all the while there has been a pretty big move up here by Red, actually able to push all the way through, right into Delta, and really flip the turn of the tide. BPT's push is not stopping, however. They have some more infantry vehicles going to continue trying to do a side stroke. And this is kind of play that I've been really hoping to see in this tournament that just hasn't happened. Because one of the things that people have to realize that most people front load their units. And you can almost really charge in with small packs units. Take things like Charlie, Alpha right now. Their main base, all very poorly defended right now. And if they can just move small groups, units across the map, they don't really have a good rally point anymore, which is bad. But all they have to do is, you know, slide in here, get this command here. It's not that tough. This vehicle does in fact get cleaned up by some cavalry tanks last minute. But very, very strong effort. Big, strong opener from BPT. Did not see this coming. These guys, of course, are doing phenomenal right now. They, as I said, were runners-up in the last Go For a War game, which, you know, that's not a small feat. It gets undermined quite a bit. You're looking at a tournament that saw 120 players, and not even like 120 crappy players. 120 of the best players in the world. The North American ladder was very close to being crappy players, but the European ladder was absolutely phenomenal, and BPT just completely stunned people by getting as far as they did. Not the best performance in the end. And ironically, I guess the winner of this goes on to face No Unit, who actually won the whole bloody thing. And they're, of course, very good. They're kind of showing people how to play the game, showing people how teamwork works. And people are copying them like mad. Everything they do is just getting copied left and right. So it could be a rematch, a 44 rematch of the 2v2 that took place at the Go For a War game next week. There could also be another rematch at Wargame as well. And of course, not a lot of commands being rallied out right now. The advantage, of course, is going to BPT, so there's no real hesitance here for them to actually do stuff. There is a call for defense. They're pretty well where there's a Spetsnaz here, and he's just kind of sneaking through. There is a T-72 here, so it's not going to be as easy of a snipe as the Jeeps. And small efforts have been made to try and secure this UAZ back here, realizing that there is a lot of sneaky play being done here. Small, micro, sneaky play. Yeah. The commando Cs here, of course, have been spotted by Romero's, and they might send something to clean it up. Hard to say. There is a command will move off into this Delta base, but there is infantry here, so this is kind of scary. And it's not all that clear that they remember that there's infantry here at all. So they might be running into a trap. +2 BPT doing solidly. Solidly. It almost looks like they're losing all their battles, but then when you look at the scoreboard, you're thinking like, no? Like you're actually winning? It's one of those weird shifts from destruction. Like you can make it a phenomenal play, but if you can't capitalize on your play, that is getting commands on points, you will lose. And looks like +3 now. What the hell happened here? Oh my god. YOBA actually able to secure 2 places. Now this won't be short. This will be short-lived. There's a Mach Schutz in the area. Will in fact be able to get the command. Does get it, and now we're down +1. So temporarily we're going to see some bleeding happening here from BPT as YOBA moving up with some tanks and some anti-infantry vehicles. No real AA in the area, so this helicopter will in fact be able to have complete free reign on the area, firing off his 122mm arms. Going to be very, very effective against these T-72s, and he's trying to get them away just in time. And yes, he does. Rocket will misfire. Towards the middle, looks like, surprisingly, YOBA has in fact been able to secure the middle, which is absolutely crazy because previously there was a ton of infantry here. And now they have this position. In fact, they're pretty well cleaning out most of the infantry around the map. They just have to clean out this group here. They're landing a helicopter here. Radis, X-Radis, what are you doing? Ah! There's going to be some artillery support, but will that be enough? No, it's actually just another helicopter. Forced to vacate this area, not able to get his units out. Helicopters being lost to infantry is never, ever, ever, ever good. And just single infantry is spawning this entire area. it's amazing the kind of vision you can get. Like, he knows there's infantry here, but when you look back, it's like, I don't know what's going on here. And of course, there's a T-72 in the area. You could just easily kill this infantry off. Now, a Yak will try to do some napalming. This is basically as standard as you can get. Does get some pretty solid hits here, and might actually get a full Motoshoki squad. The Motoshoki squad is moving away, however, and might be able to survive with one member. No, all dead, and 2 squads actually died there. Pretty effective hit there. Napalm's pretty well come to dominate the game. It's basically become the brand new artillery, except you have a high chance of losing your units. It's just a crazy good trade-off. Now BPT has put a command just on a really weird spot of this map. Look at this. It is just barely inside. When you scroll in, you can see the line here. It's just barely in there. But from the outside, it looks like it's outside. That's absolutely crazy positioning there. So this will be continuing. BPT's moving up the score. And realistically, we're still kind of in the short of the game. But YOBA is going to have to make some pretty crazy moves pretty soon, as they are doing a tank push on this good flank here. Trying to clean up some infantry, trying to clean up some vehicles. Doing very good at this. Of course, getting this position here can become very, very important because, like I said earlier, it's something you don't see a lot. There's this kind of weird idea that once you charge your position, you should stop. But certain ones, it's not the case. For example, this one here is an insulated position. It's insulated from this position in the front, which has all the front-loaded units, and this one on the side. If you were to crack this, you could also get this. Then you can take these roads and go take this, or you can spin around here and take this. Now, of course, you want to bring some AA and stuff like that. You want it to be an actual push, but it's something that a lot of people haven't been doing, so it just seems kind of risky, but it's really not. Everyone pretty much plays like you do, and until someone does this, front lines will be heavily loaded. T-72, just barely getting away. Mass explosions. Every explosion must be a nuclear explosion. Yes, that is the case. Of course, there are some more tanks to throw to the front. Or T-80U gonna throw some of its reflex rockets at this single T-64. Not getting a hit so far, but we'll have to see how this goes. T-64 does pull back just in time, doesn't get hit, and the T-80U will not be wasting its rockets anymore. This middle is actually getting pretty crazy now. The napalms were actually very, very good. We have 40 new mortal Struckies being rallied in. There's tons of Mott Shootens, and so far, there's T-80A here. Looks like position will in fact be going to YOBA right now. If they can push across and clear all these infantry, of course, they'd be able to move in and get this Conquerors. This Conqueror is actually crazy good positioning right now. Able to strike all the way across the field into the at these recons, at these AA, and of course, insanely cost effectiveness. Here's that's what we're gonna see. Recon moves, doesn't get hit. Fortunately, it's not doing the real damage. And here comes more absolute air support. This mass air support strategy is huge. Everyone loves doing this stuff. It has become the standard of play. Actually, one of the weird things with the game is that because this standard play has become so popular, it's given rise to the helicopter all in. Because people aren't bringing out effective AA against helicopters, which of course air superiority fighters are not. It'll be weird to see how that transitions in the future. Will people continue doing this air dominance thing, or will they switch over into something less about air dominance and more about getting helicopters out of the sky? Looks like the NATO is actually going to get completely cleaned out here. Mott Shootens en masse here, defending this location. There's no balance problem here, of course, because it's pack versus pack. And a little bit of napalm, is it? No, it's just regular artillery fire. Not going to do too much though. BTR 60 PBs all going to get killed here. They're of course anti-infantry vehicles, not really in a good position. And these airstrikes have been absolutely brutal, just stunning and shocking left and right. Now we see a small little push up here. Anotic, of course, going to go ahead with this T-72s, loses one of them. T-80U is left alone, and this is looking really bad. I'm thinking this T-80U, which keep in mind is, you know, the most valuable unit in the game. could die. Absolutely. There's just so many freaking tanks here. Here comes T-64s, T-34-85, T-72s, and T-80U is being chased off very easily, very effectively. But not firing on it, surprisingly. Actually going after the AA, which of course is pretty high priority. If you can get rid of AA, you can call on air support. Yeah, absolutely. And T-80U actually able to get away though, just because of the refocus on the Tunguska. And not able to get any of them. That's kind of surprising choice management here from Dark Mill. Whether or not that, oh my god, that's such a long range. You see that shot? Oh my god. Usually you don't see like max range shots from a T-80U just because they don't have vision usually. They're one of those units that can almost shoot as far as they can see, and rarely do they ever get to see that much. The battle for middle, of course, going back and forth as Napalm goes down. Napalm goes down for NATO. NATO moves in units, cleans up the units. Napalm goes down for Pack, moves in their units, and it's kind of a new type of stalemate type situation. If only one player was doing this, it would have been overall domination, but both players are doing this. So it's kind of back and forth. And a pink zone. I've never actually seen a pink zone. This would be a zone in which both blue and red have fused together and are fighting inside the zone. That's absolutely crazy. I've never seen one of those. That's absolutely brand new to me. Will in fact go to red though. Usually people don't run into the zones. People usually just kind of sit in their own personal zone, and that's fine. That's bizarre. I've never seen that one. I didn't even know it was actually available in the game that you could do that, but apparently you can. If enough infantry are killed, you can move your own in. Today I learned. Of course, the red will have position here once again. Mach Chieftains should be able to hit these Moto Strokies with support of the T-72s. Could be all for naught. Looks like all the RPGs have in fact been deployed by the Moto Strokies, so T-72s should be secured, and position will in fact go back to BPT. Now, this T-80U harassment from Nautic has actually been doing pretty well. He actually hasn't lost any T-80Us, and he has been... Never mind. There was a T-80U up here. He has totally lost a T-80U. Never mind. It has not been effective. Not at all. Looks like we have a call from help from Zek. We don't know what he wants. Oh, here's what's the problem. There's a big tank push here. Now, this is T-80U with his T-80As, and his name is T-80U. Obviously after his favorite vehicle, and it's T-80As versus T-80As with Tunguska support, and this is the kind of push you gotta do. He's moving up the front. There are some tanks here covering, however, so it's not going to be as crazily effective as you might think. One T-80A will in fact go down. He's gotta get this other T-80A before it's too late, and of course the Tunguska has to be able to support, knock out this helicopter. It's a little bit of a micro madness right now, as Conquer's actually going to join the fray, actually going to add some rocket support here, and looks like this push from T-80U will in fact not be successful. Too many helicopters in the area, Tunguska not providing adequate support, and one rocket goes off, does not hit the target. This T-80A should be cleaned up, should not get any more damage, and yes, that will end that push. A very scary push, by the by, but that flank was unfortunately covered by BPT. And YOBA is currently doing the +1, which is great, but they've got to hold it for a lot longer than that. They have to make up how many points here? 90 points? Dear God, that's a lot. That means they have to hold +1 for about 6 minutes straight. If they can hold it for 6 minutes straight, they're back in this, which would be good, but not just yet. And note, this command has in fact been pulled from the center base. He's not wanting to risk it. He could place it back in here and be all fine, but he's losing this flank here through infantry, and actually going to try and sacrifice the command just to stop the bleeding just for a little bit. Or is he going to pull back? No, it actually loses it, so that's bad. And suddenly the side flank is absolutely crushing through. We see some BMP-3s, of course, going to support here with their anti-tank and anti-infantry ammunition. One of the more favored hybrids in this game for the pack players. And all the vehicles are getting killed here. There's only a handful of tanks left and a handful of infantry. this position overwhelmingly will in fact go to YOBA, who might be able to get another command in and actually make a pretty big comeback here. And why is Stop still alive? There's actually still 2 tanks here adding support. The BPT, of course, are adding in their own version of anti-tank weaponry. But very soon, oh, here comes a yak. Actually going to do a napalm on this base that was just taken over, this forward base. And yes, in fact, YOBA is able to secure this base with a nice little command jeep, as they really push them out and change position. And look at this, more infantry rushing through the woods, able to grab some forward positions here, not too strong of course, not able to grab any of those essential towns, but will be able to have a sneaky position here in the forest, which will prevent BPT from moving any kind of unit through this wood location into the forward base, and just overwhelmingly securing all locations. And if you look at YOBA, one thing they've been doing very good is they have a very strong defense net. I mean, they have this whole lake covered by this one flying recon, whereas BPT are covering only with this single one far away. You know, similarly over here, you know, we have some AA covering this area. We do not have any covering here. We do have a recon though, so that's a big difference. Just a really strong net here. Looks like all those trades that have been happening are working out. And look at this crazy fast pullback. Right at second credits, able to actually pull this command out of the fire of the mass barrage artillery just in time, and will move it to a far more secure location where it will no doubt not be spotted. Motorstruck is going to battle a BTR-60 PB in the woods. Should be a pretty one-sided battle, but without infantry supporting here, not be so good. Looks like Motorstruck here pulling back just out of range. Max range, that is. And why is it only +1? Aha! There's actually a command missing from this forward reinforcement base. So it looks like we're going to have to see another command get rallied in here for YOBA in order to replace that. This is actually a pretty key one. There is a Ravedka, which is probably the perpetrator. Gonna say that as a definitive thing. And small little push up here by Ramirez, not going to be entirely effective. It's TO-62, which of course are a napalm tank. Do have some tank destroyer weapons, but not too many. And that's mostly cleaned up. The Motorstruckies are able to grab this position here. Ravedka's here, and Norov? That's a weird choice. But yes, it'll be taking the forward position as well. T-62s firing away, giving away their position unfortunately, and could get picked off pretty easily here by a big giant collection of tanks. But looks like actually, as my dog reveals his location through shaking his chain, they're going to go for some fire position command on this forward area. T-62s might just die right here. They're like the higher end of everything. And oh my god, it gets one last napalm off. Perfect napalm, by the way. Tanks will be able to move through this, but they will be taking some morale damage, which is going to be pretty key for the upcoming engagements. Of course, bad morale means that they can route into bad places, which is always, of course, not very good. Motorstrucky's killing off some tanks here. T-72 is actually able to pick off a vehicle, keeping these infantry out in the open. And more infantry will in fact rain in, as this is a pretty solid combined arms attack here by BPT. Ooh, so quickly lost that that infantry carrier to these helicopters, and things are suddenly looking pretty good for YOBA as they've now hit the tide marker, and suddenly the onus, that is the need to move, is suddenly going to be placed on BPT, who absolutely need to get something done. Tunguska fires on the napalm bomber. Will the fire get off in time? Just gets off. Tunguska will try and move away from it or run through it. What are you doing, buddy? Are you going to do the run through? Looks like he's going to run through. Well, that's what it looks like when you have a vehicle on fire, I guess. Graphics! Speaking of which, small engagements happening everywhere. We have T-80U from versus the T-64. And it's going to be really hard for BPT to come back here. They do have a decent number of forces, but they will need to get them all in one area, and we'll have to push them. Now we do have this, once again, side flank here by T-80U coming out. This time he's going to play a little smarter. He's going to move his Spetsnaz forward and try and use it as a spotter A lot of people are using this, doing this. It works out really, really well. Just move forward, get an idea of what's there, pull back. And this could come down to a crash. This 2-point base here, of course, is what they really want to steal. If they can kill all the stuff here, that would be huge. That wouldn't be too hard given their position. They could actually move through the woods and create a new flank right here against this BPT. However, it's a little bit of tank jousting right now, moving back and forth as well with T-64, trying to get a few shots back and forth, back and forth. T-80U, of course, is defending here with a helicopter, not getting any solid hits just yet. And looks like things are normalizing pretty well. And let's see what he sees here. Just a few vehicles. Doesn't realize the size of threat. Maybe does now. Yes, probably does now. There is a decent sized force here. Absolutely nothing to trifle about. And helicopter going to try and take on an anti-air vehicle. Let's see how this works out. In fact, completely out of ammunition. This is definitely going to be a bad play. The Beryusa, of course, a very, very cheap AA option. And if it kills this, it will pay itself off easily. And does, in fact, do so. It is now hardened to your 3rd veterancy. So pretty much YOBA has taken over the map and actually has a forward mortar here and is going to mortar this one location here and is actually doing some pretty solid hits here. Of course, it's mostly tanks, so these mortars won't do too much. Of course, mortars are typically an anti-infantry option. And here comes one rocket fired, but unfortunately the jet fighter itself is destroyed. Both players having problems keeping their vehicles alive, their aircraft I mean. And there should be a lot less, just because we've run out of napalm bombers, we run out of a lot of air superiority fighters. It's coming down to it. This should transform into a grand war, not a grand war, a ground war. Relatively soon. Now there is a helicopter here. It is not alone though. There is a Tunguska across the way that will be able to fire on it. There is a call for attack here from Zek, but of course it's staying just in range. Wants to avoid any unpleasantries. Another attempt to move up here and will get shut down, but how cost ineffectively will it get shut down? If it loses the Spetsnaz, that is huge. Of course, that's pretty well the only spotter in these woods right now. In fact, other infantry are moving up from different locations, and 1 hit point left on it. No, not able to get that final Spetsnaz. The Spetsnaz will survive and will continue to get vision. Of course, this mountain location, pretty great place for staging some anti-aircraft infantry. Anti-aircraft infantry, of course, are very much a niche in the game. Very, very niche-ish. They only have certain places where they're amazingly good. And, yeah, it's really amazing how it's flipped here. Complete domination here from YOBA in the middle. And, I mean, if BPT pressures too much and loses too much, they can't come back. If they pressure a lot and do a lot of damage, they absolutely have a chance to come back. Looks like we're going to see a little bit of a combined napalm attack here. We have 2 napalm bombers, one of which got destroyed, along with a Buratino. They're trying to fire together. Lots of stuns going off. Stunned inside of the fire. And some of these vehicles should take some pretty considerable damage here. In fact, just slowly ticking away. The UAZ not quite being hit here. Still survives today. And infantry just continue to move up. We're going to see 20 modal Struckies run across the way, doing 2 concentric circle patterns. And half of them get blown away by a single hit. Is there a gun in that guy's head? Yes, there's definitely a rocket launcher pointing at this guy's head. I can see why he's running. The Invisible Man is actually firing on this guy with an RPG, which of course would kill the Invisible Man himself. That enough will be scary. And in fact, going up front, we have, oh my god, is this 2 Invisible Men? No, looks like the Invisible Man was in fact killed, and problem has been averted indefinitely. Speaking of which, middles is getting pretty crazy right now. Lots of infantry being tossed forward by BPT, trying to crush this middle, but unfortunately there's just so many freaking modal Strelkys here. We have 20, 30, that's 50, 90, 100 infantry in the middle here for for YOBA. So this will definitely not get destroyed. Not at the rate of units that are being thrown out here. And they're not losing them either. Looks like BPT is definitely starting to get desperate. Now they did get a manned vehicle here, which is huge. This has caused Radis Express to immediately rally out another command. Of course, the reason why he was able to immediately rally out is because he's banking his cash to make educated decisions. Everyone in the game pretty much does this. You hold back on purchasing things. You might have 100, you might have 200 cash banked up. That way, if like a helicopter all-in comes or suddenly there's a tank push coming, you can just immediately rally out the counters to it. And it's kind of an emergency fund. Oh my god, best artillery fire ever! Actually, we get 2 vehicles, that is absolutely huge. Both AA in fashions and styles. And this is like probably the hardest flank for T80U to do. He's trying to crash and burn through this 4 base. Able to get up one of these vehicles here. T80A is not even low on health, and we're seeing a tank destroyer vehicle moving up to try and challenge the mighty T80A. I'm very wondering like what is going to happen here. There's actually not that much left here. It's a single T80A versus a BMP, 2 BMP3s and T80U. This should go to T80U here. It absolutely should. And if he's able to kill off this one T80A, he will also be getting a Tunguska, MTLBV, and a bunch of Urals. Like, I feel like Oprah right now. You get a Ural, you get a Ural, you get a Tunguska, you get a Przik Igla. There's absolutely no defense left here. There's no tanks. Here comes a helicopter, but there is a Tunguska ready to fire. There's a Mittelstrela trying to move in here. Of course, this is a little bit of a sneaker position he can move up to. It's currently invisible. If he just moves up a little bit, he can get some side shots. Now the T80Us are moving back, but they're moving back in a very odd manner. They're moving back to try and sweep into this base, hoping to randomly come up to a command, which of course they will not. And yeah, that was a pretty solid push forward. Not really capitalizing, not moving completely forward, kind of problematic, but still quite good. Now there are lots of helicopters, so he's very wise in pulling back. The Tunguska will fend off quite a few of them, but this is a Kula, people. This is not your run-of-the-mill helicopter. This is your 130-point helicopter. This is the bad boy of the East. It is the one that destroys absolutely every single vehicle, and this push-up can probably just not be stopped. If he rallies out a lot of tanks, he can just crash through here, destroy a lot of stuff. And it's looking like that point where it's going to be almost impossible for BPT to come back. They're at that awkward point where not only are they not gaining ground, but they're also still losing ground. So overwhelmingly, the play style of YOBA here is just crushing. They actually need to gain 220 points in 18 minutes, which by all accounts is going to be damn near impossible. To do that in 18 minutes, they would need to get, so I can do this math real quick. Math is hard. Let's see, they need to hold a 1-point advantage for 17 minutes. So once the 17-minute marker hits, we can officially declare a YOBA victory. But it looks like it's going to happen anyway. They're still +2, they're still moving forward, they have the 2 middle bases, and they're pushing in on every single one of these bases. They can get into Juliet, they can get to Kilo, they can almost even get the hotel. It's getting bad. There's no anti-tank weaponry here at all, just infantry. And as these skirmishes get cleaned up here, and this is bad, it's not going to be long before BPT just has to throw in the towel. There are some cavalry tanks here, the BMP-2. Ober 1986, which I think is just a vehicle. Yeah, I think it's just a vehicle. These vehicles will be retreating, but they did some solid hits here. And of course, this is a pretty crazy position. If you stage some tank destroyers here, they can wipe out this entire map. Now the call for the 70% has been done. It looks like we're going to get to that magical point where BPT cannot in fact win. And I'm thinking we might see some levers come soon. There's a T-80A in a pretty awkward position, surrounded by Przik Iglas, able to do some damage. Pretty well going to clean up this random position here, as long as he doesn't get destroyed by 26 Modal Cherokees, of course. And Dark Middle just gets away from those infantry. Not much of a challenge here, but of course very, very slow. Yeah, it's getting bad. So all I can pretty much say, tanks are being blown up as they exit their hole, like they're Koreans, you know. Get in, or Afghanis, get in your hole. And yeah, I suspect the towel should be thrown in relatively soon. The match will, of course, end relatively soon. And we're going to see bombing going to happen on this very strategic location. Able to get a big shot off, big array, hits almost all the tanks, only 2 remaining. And there is enough tanks here to completely clean it up. This location is going to be ruined. And unfortunately, they just keep rallying, get more tanks here. They're throwing away more vehicles. Absolutely padding the stats here for Mr. T80U, Mr. Radis X Radis, and anyone else here trying to milk? Yes, of course, these are KPZ's super, super cheap tanks. Cheapest in the game. I think you have to have a specialized deck just to get these cheapy tanks. And yeah. When this many tanks is running to your front line and able to just convincingly destroy everything, you're going to have some troubles. Now, helicopter has been rallied out. There isn't any AA here, except for some of the more close-range guns from T80Us. And the helicopter does get a range of them and should be able to fire back a little bit. But like I said, this is mostly done. Shouldn't be too much left here. Even the positions over here are really good. Just solid T80U shots. Helicopter went down without a fight. And really, there's nothing stopping them from just moving on in. Absolutely nothing here. They can push on through. There's no anti-tank weaponry left. The ones that do have them are completely out of supplies. BPT crushed, defeated by YOBA. So where does it go from here? Well, BPT moves into the losers bracket, and they will face SKD. YOBA continues on the winners bracket, and they will be facing no unit. And of course, BPT and YOBA, and like, don't take anything against BPT here. They're 2 of the best teams in the game. Absolutely. They have some of the best players in the game. They play very well. If these guys were facing anyone else, the match wouldn't be nearly as close. It would be 600-0. Congratulations goes to YOBA for this massive victory. Better luck to BPT in the losers bracket against SKD. And yeah, hopefully we'll see both of these guys back in the winners bracket relatively soon for a nice semi-quarter or full-on finals. My name is Trailmaker. This course is Clash of the Clans 2. It's a tournament hosted by Dirty D. If you want to be in the next one, definitely stay tuned on the forums community because they always have events that are cool. Of course, on my channel, I also cover ESL finals, which are every week. I'll probably have them up on Monday or Tuesday usually. And if you want to see more content, definitely make sure to subscribe to my channel. And if you like this one, definitely like this video. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys for the next Clash of the Clans match, which I'm pretty sure is the losers bracket of SKD and BPT. I think that's next. See you guys then. I said the game's supposed to end when I say that. See you guys then. Oh my god, I'm dyslexic. There's still 40 points left over, dear god. Well, thanks for ruining my outro, dyslexia. I am partially blind, though. That's no lie. A lot of these numbers do mess with me. And, this is awkward. Three's Company 2. There! See you guys next time. Blah!